Well, hello, Currency Recap time. Joe with you here. It's the 16th of October, another Thursday as we get halfway through this month. I've got my 2 cents. You guys know how this works. Let's get into the meaningful news of the day. Let's take a look at what happened technically, and if I've got trades to share, I'll do it.
All trades and analysis in this video are intended for professional traders only. This content does not constitute financial advice and is for educational purposes. This video is being released after a short delay due to Compliance Department review. Maverick members receive this content immediately as part of their daily trading resources. If you're ready to level up, consider joining Maverick Currencies. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits. You bring the skill, we provide the backing. Let's get into today's market recap and see how the pros are trading the currency markets.
Moving into our market analysis and straight into the news of the day. Well, it's volatility. Volatility continues to increase in the U.S. equity markets. It's driven by news, earnings, and some tweets, all sorts of stuff. I actually saw the first part of this on Friday of last week, and it's actually been pretty steadily above 20, and it actually pushed a little bit higher today. What I didn't expect is all that volatility to kind of carry over into the equities. We'll get there in a second. Gold continues to set high after high, and oil continues to slide. Both those things show that there's expectations, some worries, maybe some fear when it comes to gold, and some slowing down in economies when it comes to the drop in oil. But we're in a new market nowadays. Let's take a look at what we ended up with. So we got the yen up 0.41% and the dollar down 0.11%. Franc, euro, pound up, CAD dropped, Aussie dropped about 0.5% there. It did have some weaker numbers when it came to employment, and the Kiwi just kind of meandering sideways. S&P down 0.63%, World Index 0.27%, crypto down 3.3%, gold's up a lot, oil's down a lot. Let's take a look at the individual cryptos here, and it was pretty much a drop across the board. Most of the patterns are pretty pessimistic with all of the currencies at least we track, but we'll get there in a second. So overall, I actually kind of had to drop our outlook to a +2, and it's because I'm just a simple chart guy, and the idea was, well, it just dropped below the 20-day. So we got price action that actually came back obviously lower, hit that rising 50. It's been jumping around. We're sliding a little bit lower today. Yeah, this could be a pivot point, maybe going lower, but still in the overall uptrend. But since price action is below that 20, I decided just to calm it down from that +3 that we've had for such a long time. I've been talking a little bit about this jumping, gaps up, gaps down, gaps up, gaps down. Well, compare that to these candles. I just see more of the same. It's just the volume's turned up to an 11. Let's just make sure that we focus on the overall price actions and where they finish, at least when it comes to the equity side of things. Moving into the economic numbers, don't have a lot out of the U.S. Now, we did get a couple of interesting things. The first was Powell coming out and saying, look, I'm thinking about making some tightening changes, and the focus was primarily not so much on inflation. It was more of an expected or worries about a weakening job market. That actually sent Tuesday, we actually had gapped down and actually moved a little bit higher off of that news. Plus, past that, there really hasn't been much to go off. Here's the Aussie unemployment change and rate. You can see a little bit of a slip. That's probably why the Aussies just continues to kind of drift lower here. The pound came in line with its GDP month over month. The pound hasn't really done much. In fact, it's pretty stable up there. Then we have a couple things slide in that kind of make you raise an eyebrow, where here's the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index. I'm not sure what this number's all about, or if this is something that is outside of the government. So I'm just going to set that aside for now. So let's just go right ahead and get into our currency analysis for today. Starting with the yen, you could see that we did have a pretty decent ascending triangle pattern that's been building over a little bit. It's just been over the last few days that I've seen a lot of these currencies have some pretty decent surges. And here's the yen coming off the bottom. Pretty aggressive, good push to the upside, a pullback, and so on and so forth. But I've been trying to correlate these with what I'm seeing in the daily charts just to give it some sort of a relevance. So I'm just going to jump over quickly to the daily, and you can see that's some pretty good surge, pretty good momentum. But overall, it's just an oversold bounce when it comes to the overall daily chart. So although we have a lot of volatility, I have to kind of pump the brakes, or I should say dilute it, by taking at least a step back and looking at the longer term as well. Folks, I gave the yen a +2 on the velocity score. I like the ascending triangle pattern and think that it might even carry some momentum if all of this, if the surging that I'm seeing in these markets continues. Let's jump over to the dollar. You can see the dollar had a little bit of a pullback here. I kept it at a -1, and because it kind of came off of this top, it's been kind of flat or most of a slide lower. The RSI just below the 50. There's a support level here that I thought was kind of important, but it seems to be just kind of floating below that. There's an area here of support, so I don't really want to beat it down too much. I gave it a -1 when it comes to the velocity. Let's just jump ahead and take a look at what it looks like on the daily. If you take a look at the daily, folks, it's basically just a retracement pattern going on, which pretty much correlates with what we saw on the velocity side of things. So let's just jump to the franc. The franc had a really good push. It's a +3 for me today. I love it. Just, RSI is flat above that 50, and then it pushes its head out. Nice price action as it continues to break out of levels. Nice ascending triangle pattern. Here's that surge again, folks. Over the last few days, I've seen a whole lot of volatility in most of these currencies, either up or down. But nice breakout, continuing higher, pushing. Let's take a look at it on the daily chart for a little bit more perspective. And you can see it looks wonderful on that as well. Nice breakout, kind of going gangbusters for now, a little bit extended, but it is definitely showing some good strength. So easy for me to throw that at a +3. Let's jump over to our euro. The euro is very, very similar. Nice little breakout here, more of just a consolidation and then just a push. That same volatility we've seen over the last few days. Nice RSI, staying high, pushing higher. Let's take a look at this on the daily, and you'll see it also has a nice ascending triangle breakout pattern that kind of correlates with what we've been seeing. So I like that as well. So you got the euro and the franc. The short term, the velocity is breaking out. The dailies are breaking out. And that's pretty much what I want to focus on, because how volatile these markets have been as of late, it can be pretty difficult to tell. Let's jump over to the pound. Now the pound looks like it's in a little bit of a pullback here on the velocity side, the 4-hour. I kept it at a +2 because I did like how it broke out and it's just retesting. You could say +1 there, but where this RSI is, I wanted to make sure I gave it its due. Jumping over to the daily on this, you could see it's very similar to what the euro is doing. A nice base, it's breaking out, lots of shadows on this. So you might not get the conviction that you'll see in the euro, but the pound is in line with that chart. So it was easy for me to keep it at a +2 for now. Let's move over to the CAD, the next on our list. I go back to the 4-hour velocity score. And the CAD just seems to be getting a little bit weak. A couple of levels that I thought were pretty interesting was this break here. So that's the momentum and slide. This is where it's been volatile over all the currencies, but this one doesn't really have, has yet to make a proper bounce. In fact, it's sliding a little bit lower. RSI staying below that 50, sloping lower. Roll over here on the moving average, slope on that. So I decided to give it a -2. And the reason why I didn't go -3 on that is because I do see some support levels previously that this could actually hit or turn or stall at. But it is definitely showing some weakness. Let's take a look at it on the daily chart. You can see that it's actually kind of rolling over from an equal high that it's set. So it's still range bound. And technically, folks, it's still within its range when it comes to that daily chart. We still have a support floor that this actually could reach over the next couple of days. So it's more of a longer term kind of a 0 to -1 trade, but on the velocity, I had to give it a -2 for today. So let's jump over to the Aussie. Now here's the Aussie on our velocity score, descending here. It's breaking support levels, a little bit of a retracement so far since I've been talking. RSI below the 50. I don't want to give it a -3 because I have no conviction yet as it's breaking, but I could give it a -2. Let's take a look at the daily on it. You can see it's a little bit stronger than you'd expect. Lots of volatility. We've seen this quite a bit, not only in the U.S. equities, but in a lot of these currencies as well. Uptrend here. It came back and it looks like it's struggling to stay here. So in the longer term, it's not as weak as you think. However, shorter term, velocity-wise, it's a -2. Jumping over to the Kiwi. It's also pushing against the support level. This is a pretty good bounce that it had in early on in the day, and then just decided to kind of roll over and fall. It's at that floor. It's all descending here. I give it a -2 as well. Let's take a look at it on the daily. You can see the daily is a little bit more ominous than the Aussie. This is actually setting a floor and breaking lower. So if you want one of those weaker currencies for at least a longer term, the Kiwi's been that way for a little bit. And I don't know how long it's going to go, but it's a good one to pair with when it comes to weakness. Let's jump over to the cryptos. This is Bitcoin. I believe this was the weakest of the bunch, and it seemed that way because it's actually breaking a pretty decent support floor here. Now, yeah, this can turn and flip around. We've all seen that before, but this RSI, it seems it's been out of favor for quite some time. I haven't seen a drop like that in a while, and even if it climbed back, it didn't seem to really get too excited. So more of a bleed. We all know how volatile these can be, but it doesn't seem like it's doing very well compared to the others. Easy for me to put it at a -3. Let's take a look at Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash, actually all the rest, I gave a -2, and it's because some of these still have some floors that they could play with. I guess Cash is a little lower than that, but definitely showing out of favor, slopes, stuff like that. Obviously, Bitcoin Cash here is going to be a -2. Ethereum, kind of the same idea, descending here, breaking this floor. It does have support, but out of favor. And here's Litecoin, a little bit of a slope. It's kind of, yeah, it broke its floor as well. This actually could be a little weaker, but I'm going to keep it as a -2. You could go -3 on that. So let's get into some possible trades, and it's just going to be kind of where we find them. Let's dig through a few. The one that I did like was the US franc. The franc's just showing a whole lot of strength. And now that the dollar's actually taken a little bit of a break, we'll see how long that goes. It did give a little bit of an opportunity. So I do like that. It's already kind of broken down, but I think this has a little bit more to go. Even after a retracement, this could be something that we might be able to get another corrective action and a roll lower. It just depends on if the U.S. is going to continue to take a little bit of a break here. But the strength in the franc was pretty impressive, at least for today. So that's a possible trade. The other trade that I liked was the Euro Kiwi. And the reason being is just that the same emergence that the franc has, so did the Euro. So the strength in that, continuing weakness in the Kiwi itself. I mean, it's not really falling apart. Didn't fall as hard as Aussie did, although they had news. It's just kind of showing inherent weakness. So I did like it. I like the ascending triangle pattern here. I like the breakout. Very similar to what I saw upside down when it came to the dollar franc. But as far as just following momentum and what I've seen over the last few days, those are the ones that are on my watch list, at least for today. So in conclusion, folks, I got some surges going on pretty much since Friday of last week. So just be mindful of the longer term chart patterns. A lot of them could just be oversold bounces or corrections, things of that nature. Play your relative strength and weakness, follow your plan, and always use proper position sizing. All right, guys, thanks for joining me today. We'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.